This album, this album, I think, has one of the best rollouts of any album I've ever really experienced. There were, sprinkling of singles kind of being dripped on this, and that it just kind of came out of nowhere for me on a long weekend with the perfect concept of that weekend. And yeah, it just absolutely, absolutely blew me away. So let's talk about one of my favorite records of the entire year. The Longest Weekend by TWRP. So TWRP is a Canadian synth jazz rock band. It's kind of hard to put the finger down on it, and this is one of my favorite styles of music where they're influencing a lot of funk, a lot of jazz, a lot of synthwave, a lot of dance music in this very rockin', very accessible, very fun package. Founding themselves around 2007 from Halifax, of all places, and then moving to my hometown of Toronto back in 2011. I really love their whole aesthetic and their whole vibe. Very kind of like nerdcore, if I'm being honest. I feel like a lot of us got into TWRP because of they are playing as background for a lot of Ninja Sex Party and a lot of their live shows. And in fact, Danny from Ninja Sex Party as well as Game Grumps has been featured as a singer, I think twice on their record. So yeah, these guys are great. And I thoroughly loved the album Over the Top from 2020. That album really helped me through the lockdown, if I'm being perfectly honest. That was the album that got me into them, even though Starlight Express was making its rounds and I had heard it. It was Over the Top that really got me into the band. And up until now, I would say that was their best record. Before that, we had Return to Whatever, Together Through Time, and Poised to Dominate. And then after that, we had New and Improved and Digital Nightmare. I felt like New and Improved and Digital Nightmare were fine, but they never quite hit that same level that Over the Top did. And the albums that came before Over the Top, again, were fine, but they never really hit that same streak. There would be moments and individual songs that would be a bop. I would say that they would be 10 out of 10 bangers, but, they were kind of around a meh of different tracks and different songs. If I'm being perfectly honest, both New and Improved and Digital Nightmare kind of let me down and left a little bit of a stale taste in my mouth. But coming into The Longest Weekend, I think I was ready. I was ready for something exciting and ready for something new. The overall concept really is just unplugging yourself from the day-to-day maelstrom of work, of social media, of technology, of aggravation, and just giving yourself over to relaxation, of leisure, of doing things because it feels good. And that's what this whole Longest Weekend is really about. It's just taking the time for yourself and doing whatever you want. And that can be found through each and every one of these songs, starting with No Service, which you can hear right off of the beginning notes of some people living the big hustle and bustle of a city. You've got the phone vibrating for a call or a text message. You've got cars just honking and beeping and trying to get in your way, going right into my big day off, which is just finally celebrating some time to yourself. Having that big breath of, I don't have all those big responsibilities that I have to do. I can do whatever I want. If I want to stay in my pajamas, I can do it. If I want to have breakfast at 4 p.m. and 4 in the afternoon, I can do it. And it's just a good vibe throughout. And each one kind of just tackles something to do as a leisure activity with not a whole lot of large consequences, not a whole lot of, I got to get this done or pressure to get it finished. It's do what you want and let it just surround you in that case. And I absolutely love that. I love that. And because it was released on the Labor Day long weekend, end of August, beginning of September, it really was that send off of the summer and coming back into the working maelstrom that is fall through spring. Now that summer's kind of officially over, we're kind of getting back into those routines, getting back into not taking too much time for ourselves. And it's really the final two tracks on this record that just make me melt. Stargazing, being just sitting back, watching the stars, and just being in awe of everything. You know, I used to do this all the time when I was a kid and even into my young adulthood, of just laying down and stargazing and just being in awe of the night sky. You know, it's a lot harder to do now with so much light pollution and so much go, 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 that, you know, you have to drive sometimes 1 or 2 hours out of a big city in order to even see the stars again. You know, when was the last time anybody saw the Milky Way? You know, so it's really finding that grounding. And one thing that I want to really applaud is the guitar playing. I think the guitar playing found on this one is fantastic. Lord Phobos, I believe is how you pronounce it, the lead guitarist, is doing a fantastic and an outstanding job on this record, both with No Service, My Big Day Off, and Starting From Scratch. He is commanding some of the biggest shredding I've heard on an album this year. And it's so funny that it's coming from TWRP of all places, not to discredit or to, you know, talk down to TWRP at all. But TWRP has always kind of been the fun, jazzy, like good time band where you're surprised of how well they're playing. But it's really with Stargazing where I'm like, this is reminding me of things that Steven Wilson and Guthrie Govan were doing on albums like The Raven and Hand Cannot Erase. Like, it's really that powerful. Like, it's a David Gilmour style of playing that really overtakes and is so emotional. I find myself being moved by the end of it. And The Longest Weekend, the title track that ends this whole thing, is that reserving yourself that this is temporary, right? Eventually we got to get back to work. Eventually we have to go and be contributing members of society again. You know, we got to get back into that grind, but I'm going to take everything that I've learned with me. You know, it's right in the lyrics. My mind is so clear in this place that I don't want to go back to the places where I found my mind getting muddled. So I'm going to bring that with me to try to stave off that muddiness, to stave off all of that. And it's so heartfelt and so intense. Like, both this album and Man's Best Friend from Sabrina Carpenter have songs that end with almost a Beatles homage with a full horn section at the end of it. And I'm like, that wasn't really on my bingo card, having TWRP and Sabrina Carpenter have an overlap within musical stylings, but here we are. I also just, I could gush for hours about this record, but I love at the end when we finally get that final play out and we have a little bit of a fade out going on. I'm like, it's kind of like when you're driving away from wherever you spent your weekend, whether it be a campsite, whether it be a cottage, whether it be a lake, whether it just be a friend's place. And as you're leaving, you know, you're resigning yourself that I have to leave. This is me leaving. But then you just turn back around for just a moment to really take it back in, you know, to really take that one last take in, you know, and the music reflects that. It fades out to nothing, but then it comes back just a little bit for that over the shoulder look at the reflection of everything that it came before. So man, what a powerful, powerful album. You know, it does have a little bit of a dip, you know, and I will say that, you know, not all of the tracks are 10 out of 10 bangers. You know, if I'm being perfectly honest, The Language of Love is a fun track. You know, it's all about being connected with those that you love, whether it be a physical love, whether it be an emotional love. But it has kind of that bounce to it. It's funny. Every time I see The Language of Love, I always think of that stupid My Brother and Me skit.
You know what language I learned in high school?
What, Griffin?
The language of love.
Gross.
Okay. They called me Porky Pig.
Okay.
Because how much?
Gross.
But also Unbounded and Free, as well as The Nourishing Act, kind of also have that moment of, okay, it's fun, Nourishing Act being all about breakfast, and I love that. Unbounded and Free is fun. It's all kind of like a party. Yukio is also just kind of fine. But if put on any of the other TWRP albums, I would say that those would probably be highlights. It's just when you're surrounded with so many tracks that are 10 out of 10, Critters being so much fun and just taking stock of the little creatures that are all around you and just being amazed at what they're able to do. And Day Trip having one of the most enjoyable bridges that I love of all. And it's about just kind of taking a drive, you know, just seeing the sights, seeing the sounds, all wraps up into a fantastic, fantastic package. So in the end, The Longest Weekend has superseded Over the Top as being my favorite TWRP record. It's in the front line of being one of the best records of the year. And if it weren't for a little bit of a dip in the middle, then we would have had an absolute masterpiece on our hands. But for the time being, I will say The Longest Weekend by TWRP is an album I absolutely love with my whole heart. I have literally not been able to pry myself away from this record. It is so freaking good. This is a classic run, don't walk to go and listen to it. It gets 2 massive thumbs up. It gets the note seal of approval. I can't give it higher praise. I really can't. Yeah, I think what TWRP has done has been extremely special on this record, and it has rekindled my love for the band. Because, as I mentioned before, New and Improve and Digital Nightmare kind of left me a little bit cold. So I wasn't all that excited for this new project from them, but now hearing it, I'm like, I am excited for whatever they do next, because I know they've got it in them to put out an absolute masterpiece. So, yeah, that's what I've got for The Longest Weekend. I urge you all to go and listen to it. This is one of those albums that I want to like stand on high and just preach its praises. So yeah, that's what I've got for The Longest Weekend from TWRP. What do you guys think about this record? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. And that's where I think I'm going to leave you guys for today. So I want to thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.